Hi, Bloody Recapped here. Today I'm going to explain a sci-fi movie, Donnie Darko. Keep your eyes open and stay focused. A guy named Donnie wakes up in the mountains with his bike in the middle of the road. Early in the morning he returns home to his family. At dinner in the evening, Donnie bullies both of his sisters at the table, to which one tells his parents that he has stopped taking his pills. The mother asks her sister how she found out that Donnie stopped taking the pills. When she comes to his room and starts talking about it, he sends her away and tells her to start pushing the pills herself. When she leaves he insults her and her mother hears this. Telling his father about it, he decides not to do anything. Before going to bed, Donnie decides to take the pills after all. We are transferred to October 2nd, 1988. Donnie gets out of bed. It turns out he is a sleepwalker, and a voice in his head whispers to him what to do. Donnie goes outside, and the voice whispers to come closer. A rabbit appears in human form. He says that in 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds the world will cease to exist. While the whole family is sleeping, Sister Donnie returns home after a walk. Suddenly the house shakes. In the early morning, two men find a young guy on the golf course. This is Donnie. He sees an inscription on his hand. This is the time until the end of the world. Upon returning home, the police and firefighters hang around his house. Coming closer, his sister tells him what is in his room. The engine from the plane fell. The agents tell Donnie's parents that they paid for their hotel rooms, and as soon as they figure it out, everyone can return to their home. The next morning, their mother takes them to the school bus stop, where the boys greet them as the newest celebrities, who dodged the bullet of death. At school, in a literature lesson, a new girl comes into the office. She asks where to sit. The teacher asks to sit next to the most attractive guy in the class. She notices Donnie, and at the request of the teacher, one girl changes seats, and the new girl sits in her place next to Donnie. On the way home, his father tells Donnie that it will take another week to repair the roof and that he signed a non-disclosure agreement about this situation. But Donnie can tell his doctor whatever he wants. In the middle of the road, an old woman appears. When Donnie goes to chase her away, she whispers to him that everything living beings die alone and leave. Donnie shares the news with a psychologist that he has made a new imaginary friend who says that the end of the world is coming. The psychologist asks if he thinks this is true, but Donnie replies that this is nonsense. While Donnie is watching a TV show at school with everyone, a voice tells him not to get distracted and watch carefully. Arriving home, Donnie falls asleep, and his new friend comes to him and orders him to break the pipes with an axe. There are 24 days left until the end. In the morning, the bus is 20 minutes late and the guys are going home when girls immediately appear who say that the school was flooded at night and there will be no classes. Also, an unknown person hit the head of a bronze dog with an axe and wrote, "I was forced to do this" next to him. While Donnie is returning home, two guys pester the new girl. Donnie reveals that the school is closed and he walks her home. On the way, he tells that he wants to become a writer, but she scoffs at him for the name Donnie Darko, supposedly some kind of superhero. But Donnie asks why she is sure that this is not so. She compliments him that he is strange, and Donnie invites her to go for a walk, in terms of dating, and she agrees. At the next session, the psychologist hypnotizes Donnie and asks him questions. He says that he met a girl, and also that he is very eager to fuck someone. He already puts his hand in his underpants, as the psychologist claps twice and Donnie returns to consciousness. At school, the police compare the underline to the one next to the dog statue. When Donnie wrote the phrase on the board, a sign of suspicion is placed next to him. In the bathroom, one of the bullies is unhappy that Donnie told the police that he did it. The bully grabs Donnie from behind and blames him for what he did, and leave. While Donnie falls asleep on the couch at home for a while, construction workers are running around him. An urgent parent meeting is held at the school. Sheets are handed out to all parents, and the literature teacher approaches the teacher who the whole school hates, and he says that the pogrom in her office was deserved. During the speech, this teacher gets up with the objection that in the teacher's book on literature, children flood the house of an elderly person by splitting the pipe with an axe, just like at school, but her parents do not support her and she sits down. During this time, Donnie is off his pills and the hare takes control of him. There is a wall between them. Donnie asks the hare why he made him flood the school. The hare replies that they are all in great danger. Donnie asks where he came from. The hare asks if he believes in time travel. Donnie's sister comes into the room. She asks who he is talking to, and he replies that he is just taking pills. It's poetry day at school. Donnie talks about Frank, who says that the world will end soon and he will save the children from the camp of suffering. As Donnie sits down, the teacher asks who is Frank. Donnie replies that it is a 6-foot rabbit and the class scoffs. At school, in the lesson, The teacher gives the children cards with situations in life and calls them to the board one at a time, with a request to put a mark on the line on the board, which will be closer to fear or life. Going to the blackboard, Donnie argues with the teacher that it is impossible to divide the spectrum of human emotions into two parts. The teacher tells him to put a mark or she will give him a bad mark. In the office, principal says that Donnie's test results are poor and he asks Donnie to tell what he said to the teacher, but she herself interrupts the principal and says that Donnie asked to shove this task card up her ass, and Donnie was suspended from extracurricular activities for 6 months. October 10th, 1988, 20 days left. After class, Donnie asks the teacher if he knows anything about time travel, and one of the students overhears them. The teacher gives Donnie a book and asks not to tell anyone about it. It was written by a nun who at one point changed and began to teach physics. Her name is Roberto Sparrow. Donnie remembers that this is a deaf grandmother who constantly stands on the road. Donnie shows the book to the psychologist and talks about Grandma Death and how she whispered in his ear. He tells a story about a dog that died when he was 8. She went under the porch. The psychologist asks to die, to be alone. Donnie says he doesn't want to be alone, and says that Frank wants Donnie to talk to Grandma Death. Donnie sees that liquids have come out of people that indicate where they will go. Then the same foreign liquid appears on it. She takes him to the second floor to a closet, where Donnie finds a gun. October 18th, 1988, 12 days to go. Donnie is walking with the new girl in the woods. They are discussing time travel, but Donnie stops and tries to kiss her, but she is not ready. She wants to kiss when she feels the beauty of this world, because some fat man is looking at them now, making pumpkins for Halloween with his sister. He makes the face of that hair out of a pumpkin. Creepy. Donnie's parents go to his psychologist and ask how his health situation is. He's having daytime hallucinations and should be getting more hypnosis and medication. At this time, Donnie tries to break through the invisible wall to the rabbit. At a speech by a popular psychologist, Donnie starts a verbal altercation where he calls the speaker a fucking antichrist because he's not happy with his point of view. Donnie doesn't get his full say and gets taken out. At his location, he tells Ross that he's going through events just like in this book, which can't be a coincidence. Upon arriving at Grandma Death's house, Donnie opens the mailbox and Grandma appears, a voice in head of Donnie asking to leave her a letter. At school, the teacher explains that anyone seen with this book will be suspended from school. She hands out new books and asks Donnie to read it with Frank. Donnie finds his wallet outside the house of that speaking psychologist, and a voice tells him that now he knows where he lives. At school, Donnie and Ross show off their new invention. The bullies recall Ross stabbing Ross's mother by her stepfather and she runs away from class. When Donnie catches up with her, she turns around and kisses him. Donnie and Ross come to the movies. When the girl falls asleep, Frank shows up. He takes off his mask and shows his face. He opens the portal that goes into the next chapter of his book. He asks to burn it to the ground. Donnie walks out of the movie alone. While the psychologist is at the show, Donnie comes to his house, douses the room with gasoline and sets it on fire. He returns to Ross, while the firemen fix the remains of the fire. Back home, Donnie's father remarks in conversation that all people are carcasses full of shit, and the whole world is a bullshit conspiracy and that Donnie is smarter than all of them. Plotting something, Donnie laughs. Back at the house, the TV tells us that that psychologist had child porn found in his basement, which got him locked up. October 24th, 1988, 6 days to go. The literature teacher is fired from the school. She teaches her last lessons and shows the bunny movie and carefully observes Donnie. When the movie ends, Donnie objects that people shouldn't worry about rabbits because they don't have that range of emotions. The teacher explains the ending and we see Donnie's mother looking at her son's painted calendar with the days crossed out. Donnie's mother tells Donnie that she's going away on a business trip and that her sister will be in charge. Arriving at school after school, Donnie finds a teacher who says she was fired. Donnie asks what the basement door is on the blackboard. She says a linguist said it is the most beautiful word combination in the English language. In the hallway, Darko takes the girl by the head and promises that things will soon change for the better. She runs away and drops the book with his beautifully written name on it. At the psychologist's, Donnie confesses that it was Frank who did all this in the city. He can't refuse, because he saved his life, and he says it's all going to happen soon. Frank has to kill someone. He shows up right in front of Donnie. He says the heavens will part. She hugs him and claps him twice. Donnie wakes up. October 29th, 1988, 1 day to go. In the morning, sister tells that she got into Harvard. Donnie throws a party to celebrate. Donnie's psychologist calls Ross and asks her to call her back, and after talking to her, Ross comes to the party. In the room, she tells Donnie that her mother has left and hasn't even left a note, and everything in the house is upside down. While Donnie is making love to Ross, Mom sends an audio message that she's flying in the morning. October 30th, 1988, 6 hours to go. Donnie gets dizzy and Liquid leads him to the refrigerator, where it says Frank was here, gone to get beer. Donnie has a vision. He takes his friends and Ross and goes to Grandma Death. Donnie sees the door to the basement. Ross goes in there, play the piano, and from the shadows 2 bullies grab them and take them outside. Seeing the car, one of the bullies runs away. The car dodges the granny, but car runs over Ross. While Donnie is looking at the dead Ross, a rabbit comes out of the car. Frank curses at them, and Donnie shoots him, but lets the other one go. Frank lies dead with a pierced eye, just like in the movie theater. Granny Death comes up behind him and warns him that a storm is coming and he must hurry. Early in the morning, he carries the dead Ross through the streets. When he arrives home, he finds his sister asleep and kisses her on the forehead. When she almost wakes up, he grabs his car keys and leaves the house. His stomach twists at the car, and looking up into the sky, he sees a portal. He quickly winds down while a dark blur spreads across the sky. The police arrive at Donnie's house, and in his visions counting down, Donnie drives straight to where the dark sky points. Donnie's mom is flying on an airplane. While the dispatcher is explaining the rules, an engine turbine comes loose. It turns out that this turbine got caught in a time loop, and it was the turbine that crashed Donnie's room. He's laughing in his room. We are shown the same night that Donnie left home and escaped death, but this time he decides to go to sleep and a turbine falls on him. Everyone wakes up experiencing the emotions Donnie must have experienced in his dream, and Ross doesn't even remember him. Everything happened as in the book, Chapter 12. When the Controls return from their journey to the main universe from the tangential universe, which only exists a few weeks from a certain point, the tangential is very unstable, and when it collapses, a black hole will form which will return time to the moment it opened. Support the channel by subscribing, like, and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.